I'm George Wrighster. He's Ralph Amsden, and this is Unafraid Show's College Football Apostles. It is week 0. It is finally here. There are no more Saturday sleeps. College football is here and upon us. We got 4 games this weekend, and we're going to talk about those. We are also going to talk about and make our week 0 picks. We got to talk QB1s because there have been a bunch of QB1s named across the country and the impact that that's going to have on conference championships, on those teams, and everywhere else. And general managers in college football are becoming a thing. I'm sorry, they're not even becoming a thing. They are a thing. And now these guys are showing that they are very valuable, and we have one that's making almost $1 million now. That's how valuable that they are. And the last thing, Kirk Ferentz, suspended for week 1 against Illinois State over at Iowa. And who would have thought Kirk Ferentz getting suspended for recruiting violations? All right, cool. We'll talk about that. You guys make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend about the show. Most importantly, get notifications and all of those things. All right, Ralph, we got to talk about these QB1s because there were a bunch of QB1s named, and probably the most, I'd probably say the biggest one in terms of being impactful and where there was at least some element of doubt was over at USC, where you have Miller Moss. He wins the job over Jaden Maivia, the kid who transferred in from UNLV to USC. And this is going to be the first time that Lincoln Riley has a quarter. Now, Moss can move, but he can't move like Baker, like Kyler Murray, like Jalen Hurts, or like Caleb Williams. So is this going to stress USC? Because, their defense has been pitiful. They have upgraded the defensive staff. Is this going to be enough to put USC where Lincoln Riley said they were ahead of schedule on schedule now?
I don't I don't think so. I mean, you saw the way that offense I think was supposed to look in the bowl game. You and I have had a lot of conversations about Caleb Williams. I love Caleb Williams. I think as a unicorn talent wise, he went off schedule unnecessarily quite a bit. Quite a
Yes.
bit. And if you've been watching Hard Knocks, I thought he made one of the more profound statements I've ever heard on that show when Matt Eberflus is sitting with him. I think it's episode 3, and he just says he runs him through a few plays on film, and he said, "What did you learn this week?" And Caleb Williams says, "Practice is a lot harder than the game." And I feel like he probably wasn't held accountable at USC for all those times going off schedule, because when it works, it works. That's not going to work in the NFL.
Yes, correct.
It just doesn't. It can work, but it's not like a sustainable solution. You have to play on schedule. You have to play within the offense, and then you have to let your playmaking ability and instincts take over when it is necessary. Josh Allen had to learn that. A lot of people have had to learn that. But I look at the way that USC looked in that bowl game with Miller Moss, and it says to me, oh, this is what that offense was supposed to look like. This is what timing with the receivers was supposed to look like. So, in all honesty, I think Jaden Maivia made a huge mistake, even leaving Brennan Marion's offense and UNLV in the first
Yeah.
place.
He should
Because
have
you can,
waited till next year. He should have
mm,
waited till this year.
mm, mm-hmm.
Waited till this year. Go get more experience playing in it. But if he ends up the starter after this year, wait, no. Is this Miller's last year, or does Miller have one more after this?
If Miller balls out, because this is his 4th year there,
Okay,
and as
yeah,
you
yeah.
pointed
So
out,
so he still got
Miller
another
Moss
season.
Miller Moss has only thrown 92 live passes in the last 4 combined years. So he's probably itching to like just prove it and then not stay any longer than he has to move on. So Maivia could be in a great situation, and if he gets hurt, like they are gluttonous over there with the quarterbacks. It feels like they always got a good, if not great, quarterback, and I think they have 2 awesome options. But I think we got a preview of what the offense was supposed to look like last year, and I think they made the right call.
Well, we're now bowl games are not always the greatest, indicator, but that should give Miller Moss a lot of confidence. And USC
Well,
has got it.
here's an indicator because you've had experience here. Miller Moss had Bishop Alemany as a contender in Southern California when he was a junior,
Oh
and
Lord.
they have been maybe the worst team in all of California in the 4 years since. So
I
let's use the fall off of his old high school as more
I have
evidence
no
than the bowl
comment.
game.
I have no comment. I have no comment. I'll let you take that one, buddy.
They suck.
All right, now another QB1, the kid who left USC, Malachi Nelson, who people were enamored with in high school, thought he was the number one player in the country by some people. He ends up at USC. USC's not in love with his work ethic, not in love with him, and he ends up in the transfer portal. Nobody fights, and he ends up in the transfer portal, goes to Boise State. A lot of people thought that was a layup for him to start there because it's a step down from USC. Well, he lost the starting job to Maddux Madsen, a under 6 foot guy that doesn't look. I mean, he may turn out to be a really good quarterback, but he doesn't look good getting off the bus. And coaches a lot of times are enamored with players when they look good getting off the bus. Like they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited! Look at this 5-star come through and this and that." And so there's something going on because it's not for a. I've seen Malachi throw in person. It is not for physical limitations. This is a between the ears issue. Whether it's work ethic, whether it's focus, whether it's, he got there and felt like he was too big time and didn't put in the work, like something is not translating. And it's going to take a wake up call for him because it's not talent alone it's not talent, like physical talent that is holding him back. And that, I believe, Ralph shows. Like, and I talked about this with Tua and Brian Flores, which Brian Flores tried to coach Tua, and you can't coach quarterbacks. You have to develop and handle quarterbacks because quarterback is the only position in football that you don't play. You play wide receiver, you play offensive line, you play linebacker, but you don't play quarterback. You are a quarterback. It's a lifestyle. And if you can't get the lifestyle right, it's impossible to get the football right.
I agree. Here's what's interesting to me, and you've been in situations that I just haven't been. So contract disputes when you're with the Jaguars and somebody is in the middle of a contract dispute, they want more money. Does it affect their attitude in the locker room and how they go about their day to day?
Yes, not
Like,
with
can
the
it affect
interaction
their
with
play
your
on the field?
uh sometimes, but not typically. But it does impact their attitude around the locker room. Like they'll be
Okay.
cool with their teammates and all of that stuff, but when it comes to the coaches and front office, it is cold shoulder, buddy. It is
Yeah.
like, hey, yeah,
So the
yeah.
rumors, and again, I want to stress that these are rumors, but the rumors are that he wasn't delivering everything they thought they were going to get out of him as a backup to Caleb Williams at USC last year, and that USC wasn't delivering all they promised to him.
Yes.
Now we're running into an issue in college football where the stuff that you saw in the pros could actually affect somebody's attitude around the locker room. And then I might push back on the national idea that it would be a layup for Malachi Nelson to go to Boise State and for it to be a layup for this reason alone. He's going to play for an offensive coordinator who runs probably the most complex offense that you could run, in playing for Dirk Cutter. And
I played for Dirk in Jacksonville.
And Dirk could be a thing that rhymes with his first name sometimes. And so Malachi Nelson put him in a situation where, like, if you want to play for him, you got to be able to handle Dirk Cutter's attitude and his schemes. I love that he challenged himself in that way, and maybe it'll work itself out down the road. Some quarterbacks do need more time to develop, but I do understand like the microwave ready attitude and aspect of today's fans thinking that he's a bust or something like that. We don't know. And to go back to practice is harder than Yeah, and to go back to practice is hard in the game, they might not like what they see in practice, but they might throw him out there and he could be really good. So you never really know. That's what happens with a lot of these quarterbacks. You wonder why QB or an offensive coordinator don't know what they have in the building. Well, some people just look different in practice than they do when they get thrown out there. So you said it. He's got a lot of time left. We'll see what happens.
Yep. All right. The next one up is over at over at Arizona State. There was a big, quarterback situation. So Sam Leavitt is named their starter for day one, and that means that Jaden Rashada already transferred. That means Trenton Bourguet is on the bench, and so is Jeff Sims. This felt like a situation to me where Trenton Bourguet is probably your best option right now, but like not by much. And but Sam Leavitt is going to give you multiple years. And they're trying to figure out how to, not just this year, but when and keep improving for the next couple years. And if Sam Leavitt doesn't play, he's then going to transfer. And then you have nobody in the building because Trenton, this is his last year. So, and you know that Trenton will be okay if you don't start him, that he's not going to pick up and leave and transfer because he's got coaching aspirations.
Yeah, this has been fascinating to watch. Um, 2 years ago at Arizona State, they brought in Emory Jones, and they're like, "Look what we got! Like, this is going to be the guy." By week 5, Trent Bourguet is picking up the slack. Last year, they're like, "Dude, you're never going to believe this Jaden Rashada kid. Like, we're going to give him the keys right as a freshman." By week 3, Trenton Bourguet is picking up the slack. This year, we got Sam Leavitt in. There's a lot of Michigan State fans who swear that this is somebody that they would have loved to have if there wasn't a coaching transition. They didn't get Aiden Childs. He's an interesting
Upgrade.
kid, man. Yeah, he is an interesting kid. Like he gives off a very much like a ski movie villain vibe, or like a Johnny Lawrence as a original Karate Kid.
Well,
Like
he said
drip.
himself, my leadership style is harsh.
Yeah,
I was like, what? You just got here, fam. Like
yeah.
harsh? Like you're not good enough to be harsh yet.
We'll see. They're gonna throw him out there, and you have to. I believe that you have if because you know what you're probably going to get in Jeff Sims, high end and low end. It's
Yeah.
a big gap. You know what you're going to get with Trenton Bourguet, and you know he's a 6th year, and you explained it to me like he's moving on, and why they would be motivated to put in somebody who could be a multi-year starter. They very much brought Sam Leavitt in to start. Jaden Rashada knew that. That's why he left. Despite anything anybody else wants to say, that's really what happened. And so they brought Sam Leavitt in to start. He didn't do anything to fumble that bag. Now he's got to go out against Wyoming in week 1, who makes it ugly against everybody, and
In
he's
a
got to
dust
show
up.
something. You could justify that attitude. You could justify that attitude, and your teammates will buy into it if you're winning. And if your teammates are an accessory to your eventual greatness, which is kind of the air that Sam Leavitt carries about him, my
Yeah.
teammates are an accessory to my eventual greatness. Arizona State is a platform stepping stone to my eventual greatness. People can deal with you not like wanting to be a Sun Devil, but wanting to like use a Sun Devil as your launching point if you're winning. If not,
Yeah.
this is going to end up like 2021, 2022, where I can imagine seeing a situation in where Trenton Bourguet comes in and he picks up the slack. But for this offense, for Marcus Arroyo, for Kenny Dillingham, like they need this to work out really, really bad, and they're going to have 3 opportunities in non-conference against 2 tough teams. 2 of those teams will probably be really tough, and we'll see. And I'm rooting for him. I don't mind getting another Rudy Carpenter in there. I don't,
Yeah.
as long as we're winning.
Yeah. All right. Dylan Raiola, starting quarterback at Nebraska. Now, if this is some people had him as the number 1 player in the country for a very long time. And he's a kid who big, strong, like he looks good getting off the bus. a little chubby, but he looks good getting off the bus. In terms of height, weight, and you're like, once we get him in our weight room, this, like we can, you know, chisel this thing out. And he's been named the starting quarterback over at Nebraska, dad's alma mater. He was committed to Georgia for a while, ends up at Nebraska with Matt Rule, starting as a freshman. This is an opportunity for him. If he comes out and plays well, this will validate all of the previous criticisms, the questions about the 300-yard games in high school, how he was ranked so high, and all like
I mean, like you're
this.
talking about everything I've been saying. Because I didn't see those criticisms from anybody but me. But yes, yeah, I feel like you're talking to me right now. Two things about Dylan Raiola. Number one, it's not great that he lost his starting left tackle right before the season.
No.
It is great that this schedule is soft as baby shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, it is. It makes it much easier to win football games when your schedule is light, if you will.
So what was DJ Uiagalelei's full first year starting at Clemson? I know that it frustrated Clemson fans because they had like the Trevor Lawrence standard or whatever. But to me, that's what I look at. If he can get through a season with 400 pass attempts, I don't think he'll have 50-50 interceptions, touchdowns, because Raiola doesn't throw picks. But if he could just survive the season and throw the ball away, because this is a kid that takes an unbelievable amount of sacks. And that was okay in high school when you're 6'5", 230 and you're bigger than everybody else. But when the guy hitting you 6'5", 230, it might take a toll. So,
So they got UTEP, Colorado, Northern Iowa to start the season. And they're two ranked teams three. They have Ohio State, who will be ranked when they play them. USC could possibly not be ranked. And same thing as Iowa at the end of the year.
But all those come after week 8, right?
Yep.
Getting 8 starts under your belt before things get crazy, or 7 starts under your belt before things get crazy, this sets up so well for him. Yeah. And I just know he's going to succeed, and people are going to come back to me and be like, you are the only hater in the country on this kid. I'm not being a hater. He didn't throw for a lot of yards, and he got sacked a billion times. Those are just facts. And if they protect him at the next level, he's going to do what he did when he was protected in high school. He's going to throw bombs.
Yep.
So best of luck to him. I believe that if you're the best high school player in the country, you should destroy other high schoolers, and he didn't do that.
That is fair. At Baylor, DeQuan Finn is their starting quarterback, according to Dave Wilson and Adam Rittenberg. He was a 3-year starter at Toledo, Conference USA Player of the Year. I'm sorry, Mac. And and he replaced Blake Shapen over there at Baylor. And this is a situation where Baylor is transitioning from a pro-style offense to Jake Spavital and the spread offense. And this is everybody's last stand. This is Dave Aranda's last stand as head coach. This is Jake Spavital's last major opportunity as an offensive coordinator anytime in the near future. Like, he's got to put something, like this is where you can't be conservative. This is where you got to, like, hey, here's everything. Here's the kitchen sink, and we got to throw it at you.
6 years at or he's going into his 6th year. 5 years at Toledo, 9,000 yards rushing and passing, like 90 touchdowns. If they can't make it with DeQuan Finn, what are they going to do? This is somebody who won 11 games last year in the MAC. I think their only losses were to Illinois, which came by like 2 points, and then Miami of Ohio and Wyoming in the bowl game. All of those losses combined, I think, were by a total of 12 points. DeQuan Finn is awesome. And if he can't get Baylor back into bowl contention, 8 wins, you have to hit the reset button. Especially with Jake Spavital as your offensive coordinator. He's boasting that he helped get Jared Goff to be the number 1 overall pick. You have to. You have to. And I think the fact that it was even a contest up to this point, it was no contest. You brought in somebody who started for the last 3 years, played 5 years at Toledo. He was always going to be the guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, this one is very interesting. Well, this last one's very interesting because we have this one impacts San Diego State and the University of Colorado and Deion Sanders because his offensive coordinator was Sean Lewis. Team scoring over 40 points a game. He demotes him because Shadur was taking so many sacks, even though he took a ton of sacks after he was no longer offensive coordinator. He gets then the head coaching job at San Diego State. Danny O'Neil was committed to Colorado. Really, apparently, he was committed to Sean Lewis because Sean Lewis takes the San Diego State job. He immediately decommits and commits to San Diego State. And now Danny O'Neil is the starting quarterback over A.J. Duffy there. Because A.J. Duffy was at Florida State first, if I'm not.
Yeah, well, funny A.J. Duffy story.
Because I feel like he was committed to like a bunch of places.
He was going to Arizona State, and Kenny Dillingham ripped him to Florida State while he was still there.
Yeah.
So, and then Kenny Dillingham left for Oregon, left him with Norvell, and it didn't work out. So he goes to San Diego State. Been interesting to watch as an ASU fan. This is crazy because Deion trusted Sean Lewis to pick his own quarterback. He didn't micromanage this situation. Danny O'Neil said when he committed to Colorado, I talked to Sean Lewis and realized he's a really good person outside of football, which was huge for him and his family. He thought that Boulder was cool growing up in Indianapolis, but it was really all about Sean Lewis. So I think you nailed it. It makes following Danny O'Neil and Sean Lewis fascinating because I don't think there's a rivalry there. I don't necessarily think there's bad blood, but every smart college football person I've ever talked to thinks that Sean Lewis is a genius. And if Sean Lewis thinks Danny O'Neil is that dude, then you almost have to
might be that guy.
You have to measure San Diego State against Colorado. You measure everything against Colorado just because it's fun to do. But this one in particular, we'll be watching. And he's not going to outperform Shadur. There's no way in hell that happens. But if he looks good, then I think it's redemption, obviously, for Sean. His paycheck is redemption, but it's redemption for Sean Lewis as a football guy.
100%. All right, now let's get to these week 0 games because we got 4 games. We have Florida State versus Georgia Tech, and that game is in Ireland, in Dublin. And we also have, hold on. There we go. We also have Montana State, New Mexico, SMU, Nevada, Delaware State, Hawaii. Ralph, which of these games do you think will be the best game? Not the most popular game, but the game that we're going to, at the end of the night, be like, oh my God.
The Montana State game. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
Do we lose each other?
No, I got you. So the Montana State game.
They're double-digit favorites.
And that number has climbed. So let's do that game first, and then we'll go to the Florida State Georgia Tech. The Montana State New Mexico game, I was very surprised by that line. 2 days ago, Montana State was an 11-point favorite as an FCS team over an FBS team, which is outrageous, it feels like. And Montana State's the number 4 team in the FCS rankings. They did get one first place vote, but you're playing New Mexico. And they're that just shows that the FCS teams and the lower end FBS teams are probably more on par than people really want to admit. That North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana State and Montana, who beat Washington a couple years ago, are they can give some of these bottom end FBS teams the absolute business.
Yeah, New Mexico's tough. Danny Gonzalez went to New Mexico. It was his alma mater, and they fired him too because he couldn't get it right. If they end up starting Devin Dampier, they're going to have a dual threat at quarterback that's going to give them some options. But this Montana State team is really, really interesting because they averaged 40 last year, playing multiple quarterbacks due to injury. Sean Chambers, I think, didn't play the full season. So now they have this kid, I think his name is Tommy Malott. And he never threw. He had one game where he threw 24 passes last year, but he averaged about 11 passing attempts last year and mostly just ran the hell out of the ball. He had 400-yard rushing games and finished the year with a 150-yard rushing 2-touchdown performance against North Dakota State. So this might be a quick game. You might see a lot of quarterbacks running. But the interesting thing about Montana State, Brent Vigen is their head coach. He was Josh Allen's offensive coordinator at Wyoming, and so that's kind of his claim to fame. That's a great question, man. That's that's a great question,
one, right? Because you got Josh Allen on your resume, but his college stats were not impressive at all. Completion percentage was bad. Yards and touchdowns weren't great.
Yeah, I mean that'd be like telling somebody you dated Angelina Jolie in high school, but you don't show any pictures because she had like braces and headgear or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, I was first to the party, baby. All right. So this number has climbed to 13.5. Who are you taking in this game?
I saw you take Montana State, and I feel like I just want to jump on the opposite side.
I took them at 11.
I know.
This is two full touchdowns now.
I think
so. Stuff has changed since the last time I gave predictions.
Do you see Bronco Mendenhall losing by 2 touchdowns? I don't know if I do. So I'll give New Mexico the benefit of the doubt.
I'm gonna stay.
I feel terrible about it.
I do too. I'm gonna stay with my pick.
And you'll keep it at 11 too, because there's video evidence that you put that out there.
Yes, I got to keep it at 11 because that's 2.5. That's a nasty time. All right. Now the Florida State Georgia Tech. This game's in Dublin at 9 a.m. on Saturday. This feels like, and Florida State is a 10.5 point favorite. This number fell a little bit too. This feels like upset potential or not covering potential all over it because Florida State, obviously, a motion from last year, breaking in a new quarterback. Georgia Tech had a top 25 offense last year and has top 10 returning production. So that means you're an older team. Florida State lost a ton to the NFL draft. So they're going to be breaking in some younger players that haven't necessarily played a ton. And then you got Georgia Tech, a more veteran team. This feels like a recipe for an upset. And this still, even though I picked Florida State to go to the playoff, this won't destroy my playoff, but it does give them an ACC loss, which a little bit nerve-wracking at the beginning of the season.
So I'm going to give you a stat line, and you tell me if you think Florida State would cover with this stat line from DJU. Okay, 19 of 32, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Do you think that'd be enough to get the job done?
No.
Okay, so that exact stat line was actually DJU's first game of the season in 2022 when he was at Clemson going up against Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And for the viewers and listeners to this show, I did have a hotel in Atlanta for kickoff for this game because I didn't know that it was in Dublin, and so I gotta admit that I am not the smartest man alive. But when it comes to this game, I'm all in on Georgia Tech with you. Maybe not for the upset, but definitely to cover, because Georgia Tech is a better team than they were 2 years ago.
Yep.
And the
whole new
and
coach. Yep.
and DJ Uiagalelei is a good quarterback, but his first game against FBS opponents, or just Power 5 opponents, his first game against Power 5 opponents the last 3 years has been not that great. In fact, the Georgia Tech one is probably his best ever. But his first game against Washington State last year, he looked bad. He 50% completions. His first game, the 2021 season, it was against Georgia. Clemson didn't score. Did not score. So he is not a guy who starts hot. He's a guy who has to kind of warm up. He has played against this defense to start a season before and completed about half his passes and only threw one touchdown. So I think Florida State wins, but I don't count on them to look as good as they're going to look offensively right out of the gate.
100%. Yep. So I'm taking Georgia Tech plus the points. All right, next game up, SMU, Nevada. SMU's favored by 25 points now. And Nevada, who, they have had years where they have been competitive. This does not feel like this line is a non-competitive line. And I mean, that's to be nice. Brendan Lewis, who won the quarterback battle, I guess sort of, over at Nevada, because Chuba Purdy, he's been dealing with a shoulder injury all camp. So
I got to help you on this one. Because Chuba Hubbard is probably what you're thinking of. He's just a regular Chuba. He's got the short U.
Oh, Chuba.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Chuba Purdy. I'm glad you corrected me.
But there is one Arizona quarterback every single year, like a quarterback from the state of Arizona, who you intentionally mispronounce their name all year. So if you want to stick with Chuba, we can rock with that.
No. Mama named him Chuba. I'm gonna call him Chuba. So so Chuba Purdy, not to be confused with Chuba Hubbard, has been he's been dealing with a shoulder injury. He's not healthy. Brendan Lewis, who we saw at Colorado and at Nevada last year, kid's only thrown 2 touchdown passes in his last 136 passes. Hasn't been pretty. There hasn't been a lot of offense following him, regardless of whether it was Colorado, because Colorado was horrendous, so we got to give him a mulligan there. And now Nevada's horrible, so I don't know what to make of the kid or whether it's the systems and the situations that he's been put in. But this is 25 points, and I believe that SMU wants to start, because they're paying their own way in the ACC. They are going to want to show Rhett Lashley and everybody are going to want to show everybody that they are about that action. I'm taking SMU minus 25. They will cover this, buddy.
Oh, I hate it too, because there's a lot of guys affiliated with this Nevada team that I know that you like, or Nevada. I apologize. Sean Dollars. I know you're a Sean Dollars guy. You want to see him do well, right?
Yes, I forgot about Sean Dollars. Yes, you used to be at Oregon, and now he get his chance to get his shot over at Nevada.
And then they got Nate Burleson II out there. I would love to see him do some positive stuff. We covered Brendan Lewis. We liked Brendan Lewis. He was like the only good part of that 2021 Colorado team, if you could call it good. I would love to see him live up to the hype.
Yeah.
So I want to see Nevada succeed. This is a tough first draw. We know Jay Norvell left this because they don't invest in football over there. It's a tough place to play. It's a tough place to win. I think they're going to get smoked. I think this might be the easiest money of the season is taking SMU as a 4 touchdown favorite on Nevada. Shout out to Jeff Choate if he can make that not happen. But somebody told me SMU's got like 4 offensive coordinators. Their points is all that they care about.
Yes. Put them up. Light up the scoreboard. All right, last game up. Delaware State, Hawaii. Hawaii, how do you find a game where Hawaii is favored by 40? But the first thing is Delaware State has to actually get to the football game. Like that's the first thing. They got to actually get to the football
Yeah.
game because they missed their flight to Hawaii on Tuesday for a quote unquote was it bus snafu or scheduling snafu, something. This is a big school small school problem because Oregon, Alabama, even Nevada, they can't miss a flight because it's a charter flight. So you literally can't miss it. It leaves when you leave. And so then my question was if Delaware State, if they were flying commercial clearly to Hawaii, how are they going to find another flight with 120 with 100 seats on it? Or are they going to have to split up?
You asked that question. My question is this: how are you going to punish any individual player for missing the bus this year if you're Delaware State's coaching staff when your whole team missed the bus?
How the hell do you miss a flight as a team?
I don't know.
All right, so who are you taking? This is 40 points, dude.
Yeah, man. I've always kind of had a soft spot for Hawaii. 40 points is a lot, though. Do you remember when Stanford had to like practice in a public park and then they won?
Yep, against Washington.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be like that for Delaware State. I think they're going to be so disorganized. No, they're not going to win. You're right. But they're going to be so disorganized that they're not even going to have time to be nervous. You know what I mean?
So are you taking Delaware State plus 40?
Yeah, plus 40. Sure. Why not?
Give me Hawaii minus 40.
Okay.
And you know I run away from these lines like this.
Oh, it's such a crapshoot spread. I hate that we're even talking about it, but it is fun. I'm just happy football's back, man.
Yep, me too. All right. So this phenomenon and this trend of general managers in college football. So you have Courtney Morgan over at Alabama, who came down from Washington with Kalen DeBoer when he went down there. He just got a raise, $825,000 a year on a 3-year contract. USC tried to poach him. According to their message board, there was a time that they thought that they were going to be able to get Courtney Morgan. And Courtney Morgan's like, yeah, no, fam. When I first saw it, I was like, I don't think he's leaving Alabama. I think that they're going to pay him what they need to. And if he has a choice to go to USC, which is obviously a great program, great tradition, all of this stuff, or stay at Alabama where they have a lot more rope, leeway, and leverage versus going to USC to go build something a little bit more, I'm probably going to chill in Alabama a little bit because he's a recruiting expert. The general managers kind of handle everything. It's like at Oregon, there's Marshall Malchow, who was at Texas A&M. Excuse me for fumbling your name, buddy. But Marshall is that from Texas A&M now up at Oregon, and most schools have them now. A general manager or what they call a chief of staff. And this is the point that we've gotten to in college football that it's not just the head coach, that now you need that the head coach is now like the CEO. And there has to be somebody below him to kind of handle all the other stuff that the head coach should not necessarily be involved in. And to kind of manage the entire operation, the budgets, and everything in between.
I'm going to read you a quote from Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, and I think it's going to explain why this position is super necessary for any college that is serious moving forward in the NIL era. This is Mike Gundy talking. The good news is the next 5 months we can just play football. There's no negotiating now. The portal's over. All the negotiations history. Now we're playing football. The business side of what we do now, we have to have those conversations with the players. Tell your agent to quit calling us and asking for more money. It's non-negotiable now. It'll start again in December. So now we're able to direct ourselves just in football, and that part is fun. The fact that these head coaches, and this should give you a little bit of a window into how busted the current system is, which is 100% because the NCAA, instead of trying to anticipate this, tried to fight it, spent a bunch of money trying to fight it, got smoked in court a billion times over. Coaches are not supposed to be coordinating with the NIL collectives, just like your super PAC is not supposed to be coordinating with the candidate. Right, but they absolutely are, because how would the collectives know what players the coaches want?
Yep.
And how would the collectives know how much to allocate to certain players? Of course, they're coordinating.
That's
so Mike Gundy kind of lets
manager's job.
Yeah, so now it's a general manager's job, and you have Mike Gundy out here saying, "Tell your agents to quit calling and trying to renegotiate midseason."
First of all,
that's
I love that.
Biggest
I absolutely love Mike Gundy for saying that. And I'm pro player getting paid, but there's a time for pay and there's a time for play. It's playtime right now. And you don't want, players, you might want renegotiation during the season, but you really don't want that, because it could go against you as well. You get hurt,
So what did that man do? He put the QR codes on the helmet. He said you could just direct pay them.
Yep. I love that because that gives fans an opportunity. Yo, my favorite player, snap. Here we go. Here's $10, man. Wait, 2 touchdowns? Oh, I've had a few drinks. Here's $100. 3 touchdowns. Oh, we need to give him a new car.
And it is a collective fund. So like that dollar gets split 100 ways or whatever. But still, I think Oklahoma State, for them losing 17 starters before the 2023 season, they've figured it out. And sometimes it takes that type of rude awakening to make that adjustment. But now you have Alabama paying $825,000 a year for this general manager position, really setting the bar for what that's going to be. And Alabama has got the highest paid everybody.
And now that's another job that you can aspire to now. Not as the head coach, but if you can be efficient and you can be a leader, somebody who's organized and all of that stuff, like, you don't have to be the X's and O's person. The general manager has a totally different job. So now there's a totally different job available in football. Now there's going to be more non-football people looking for that job, I'm telling you.
Hey, and Steve Keim is available for anybody who wants him, even though it got announced yesterday that Steve Keim is starting a ground up NIL collective for like the best middle school, like it'll be like slotted. I'm sure it's a necessary service. We'll see how it works out.
Well, it's based out of his first offer. Got this kid's first offer to Arizona State.
Yeah, it's being run out of Charlotte, where I'm gonna see if I can get us hooked up with the with an interview for this, because I'm fascinated by the process. I'm sure it's necessary. But let's get Steve
Keim in for an interview.
The age of negotiating for kids as young as 14, financial stuff has been here. You're in California, you know this, but now it's like, all right, we can shed some light on it, which is the sunlight's the best disinfectant. It's been necessary for a long time. It is better for these kids to be prepared for this madness than it is to be unprepared. No matter how much you don't like the NIL era, you don't want kids going in not knowing what to expect, getting screwed over, bailing on your team halfway through the season. You don't want that type of stuff. You want as much stuff above board as possible, and it's been possible because we pay all these administrators, we pay all these coaches, and the players are the ones really driving that revenue. So if we can set that up for the players, I am absolutely all for it. Is it going to be an ugly process? Absolutely. It's going to be real ugly on the way there, but I think the GM position is way more necessary than a lot of these administrators they have at these colleges.
Yep. You are 100% right. Final thing up. Our guy, the nepotism king, Kirk Ferentz. He is suspended for Iowa's week 1 game against Illinois State. When I woke up this morning, I did not have that on my bingo card, Ralph. I did not. Kirk Ferentz? What the hell did he do to get suspended for recruiting violations and not just this is what's confusing to me. I don't know what Kirk Ferentz did.
They apparently were in contact with Cade McNamara prior to him entering the portal from Michigan.
Wait, so you got suspended for Cade McNamara?
For all 505 yards and 4 touchdowns that he threw last year, yes, you got suspended for Cade McNamara. I don't think
temples for those people watching it on.
For the audio version, George is experiencing a migraine. Yeah, so the funniest part about this is it is the best justification for all the Michigan fans who have been like, everybody does it. The fact that somebody got suspended for messing with their players is just going to add fuel to their very miserable fire that has been raging ever since the whole cheeseburger gate and all that stuff. So, and we know, and we've talked about it on this show a bunch. Sharon Moore was contacting kids who weren't in the portal yet, other people on the staff. It's happening all over the place. You can't get caught though. And a lot of this is player initiated. A lot of this is player initiated. A lot of it.
Yeah.
Player and parent initiated. They'll reach out to somebody who reaches out to somebody else and say, if I get in the portal, will there be a spot for me?
It's like
that is
hey big
necessary.
Head. It's a hey big head text. Hey big head. You up? Yeah, okay.
How they get busted for it is interesting to me. I don't is it self-reported? How does this come out? Does it come out in an interview? But this is also why it's important to develop relationships prior. This is why you got to be recruiting high school, especially for this is a message for Deion Sanders. You got to be recruiting high school kids because you need to have that relationship developed for when they
the portal.
Yeah. You got to have their uncle's phone number. You got to have the school janitor's phone number. You got to have all of those relationships developed in case you get them on their third or fourth chance. That stuff's really important. You brought up Sam Leavitt, right? You brought up Sam Leavitt, Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham was at Florida State when he gave Sam Leavitt his first scholarship offer. You know where Sam Leavitt played high school ball?
Where?
West Linn, Oregon, out by where you played in college. So developing a relationship with somebody who is literally the furthest you can be in America from you helped ASU get their starting quarterback 3 years later or whatever. So you got to be out there developing these relationships.
And people are developing those relationships because there are relationships that have been built around my older son who's in college now that people are calling me about my middle son now. And, and so we go see. So just know that over the next few years here on College Football Apostles and Unafraid Show that we're probably gonna have every coach in America on this show.
Oh yeah, man! I was out at the commitment of the number one offensive tackle in America a couple of days ago, talking to his dad about about your show and just like everything that we the family aspect, the fatherhood aspect, the food aspect. Like people are loving it, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and I'm excited to watch it continue to grow. Hopefully, we don't offend any more coaches than we already have in our Pac-12 Apostles era. Hopefully we can leave some of that because there's some coaches that don't want to talk to us.
Hey, that's fine. But some of them they won't have a choice, Ralph. They won't have a choice. You want the phone picked up, you better pick up the phone. And I'm not lying. I'm not above that. So is what it is. You guys, I'm George Wrighster. He's Ralph Amsden. This is College Football Apostles. Enjoy the weekend. Peace out.